Sorry, we're a few minutes late there, everybody. We're just experiencing some difficulties getting one of my guests on. And, well, as you know, this is an emergency roundtable. Um, Something happened the other day. I was taking part in a radio show on No Holds Barred on Zeekly TV. And later that night, wanted to go and find a link so I could repost it. And Zeekly TV was down. Now you might, ask yourself, why would it be down? Do they pay their bill, this or that, or the next thing? Well, the reason why they were down was because they were hit by DoS, or denial of service attacks. The guest that I'm going to be having on right now is going to go over what a DoS attack is, what other types of attacks may be out there, and quite frankly, I'm kind of perturbed because it was the same night I did my call to arms video, and here you go. Right while I was going on about how we're under attack, Zeekly TV goes down. I couldn't help but be frustrated, and it's taken me this long to get my act together and do this broadcast. Been a little bit busy with life getting in the way and what have you, but I'm going to. I guess no one's actually watching at the moment, so it's really kind of hard to take it to Q&A. However, if there is any viewers right at the moment that are listening live, love to get some Q&A. If you have any questions, I'll answer them as best as I can. If you have any subjects regarding the attacks on websites or any other examples, go ahead and post them in the Q&A section. I'd like to get your feedback on this. But yes, we do have a guest who wants to remain nameless, only to protect his employment, and he is going to go over some issues regarding what these attacks are like, or what they entail anyway. If any, we're going to reiterate a lot of this again on Saturday night's show. Like I said, this one's going to be a lot shorter and sweeter. It won't be 3 hours and 16 minutes. I'm trying to keep it under 40 minutes if at all possible. I got some things to do before I retire for the night and do my long day again tomorrow. Anyway, my guest still hasn't gotten in. I think software is installing, so kind of bear with me. I'm going to ramble on a little bit longer. I guess what I could do is let's go check out a Wikipedia entry and see what DoS attacks are from a Wikipedia standpoint. Oh, there's James. James has joined us. Aha, he is in. Good. Don't have to resort to Wikipedia now. How are you, James?
Oh, not too bad. How about yourself?
Excellent, excellent. So I just kind of introduced the scenario. Our beloved free speech protectors, Zeekly TV, they went down. They were attacked. Apparently, I've talked to a few people that they've been attacked on a regular basis with denial of service attacks. I was hoping maybe you could enlighten the listeners as to what these attacks are. What do they entail?
Well, sure. So first, we understand that the internet is packets. It's packet-based technology. Every packet that's received pretty much has to be processed by whoever it's sending it to. So if you have a website, such as something like Zeekly, it has to respond to every request. Like if you click on your browser, it sends a packet to a server wherever Zeekly is hosted that has to answer that packet and either play video or whatever it's going to do. Even all of Google is all based on the same technology. So there are two types of DOS attacks. There's a denial of service attack from a single source, and then there's a DDoS, which is a distributed denial of service attack, which can come usually from something like a botnet that someone controls of compromised computers.
Let's see. So you just muted yourself, I think, there, James. But Or did I mute you? No, I
I
didn't.
did that. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. You got cut off there. Continue.
Okay, so every packet has to be processed by the server that's hosting it. So if you have a website that's someone wants to attack you, they send so many requests. There's two different kinds of requests that you can send for a DDoS attack um, at different layers of protocols. So the hardest one to deal with is the HTTP request. That's they just send these get when you click on a web page, it does a HTTP get to whatever URL you're sending it to, which is translated to an IP address. So they send a continuous request for a web page over and over and over again. The computer that's receiving these, has to process every request. And because of a timeout of a lower level protocol, it'll keep the connection open for that protocol. I forget what the time is exactly, but it has to keep the connection open for some time until it actually times out. I think it's 6 minutes or something like that. So it gets overloaded. It gets to its maximum number of connections and can't accept anything else, and it just kind of sits there.
Mm. So what you're saying then is basically it's just disallowing anybody else who actually wants to get in and do something because they're further down the queue.
Yeah, well, it's overloading the resources of any particular server. It could be a bandwidth resource, which is kind of uncommon nowadays, or usually an application resource. So it runs out of CPU cycles, it runs out of network connections, and it can't process any more information.
Mm. Wow. And is there any types of ways to mitigate such a thing? Like, is there any kind of prevention?
Well, yeah. These days, a lot of people pay for their web servers being hosted, and I don't know where Zeekly is hosted. I see they bought their domain name, but I don't know. Who's serving. I didn't really look up who is serving them. If they're buying space in a server farm or data center somewhere.
Right.
Data centers usually are pretty good at throttling this. They're able to black hole the traffic, but mostly you just kind of have to wait it out because most attacks, DDoS attacks, happen for less than 36 hours. That's typical.
Right.
They can go longer than that, but it just depends. And usually you get attacked for some reason. There's not people just don't arbitrarily, unless they're just like little kids thinking they're having fun or whatever. But
Right.
most kids don't know how to do it. They have a whole gang of servers, a botnet full of what they call zombie servers that are usually compromised people's home computers. This is why it's important to keep an eye on what's on your computer because you can get them by visiting a website or whatever, and usually you don't even know they're there, and they eat up your bandwidth as well because they're sending these requests from groups of compromised home computers.
Right. So like these typically speaking then like if your computer's chugging away and you have no reason why, it's possible then that you could have one of these bots running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So that there you have it, people. You have to if you're using a Windows machine, well, Lord have mercy on you, but yeah, make sure you keep your virus scanners up to date and what have you. And hey, if things aren't running as smooth as they should be, get things checked out. I was going to also say, what about operating systems? Is there operating systems that are more prone, less prone?
Well, no, because they're usually the hosting servers are running some kind of Linux or something, and usually on like a virtual device, meaning that it's one CPU running many virtual machines that run on it. And the networking is there, can handle the bandwidth, but it's just the way the protocols are built that they have to service these incoming requests. I mean, if a web server that you had set up didn't process those requests, it wouldn't know when to respond and when to display a web page or a video or whatever.
Right. So there's no way then, pretty much, because it's like an amorphous blob of different machines that are doing the performing the attacks in a DDoS. So there's no real way to blacklist any of the offending machines. There's no automated way to do that, I would assume.
There is, but it's expensive.
Of
You
course.
can buy filtering equipment, like reverse proxy servers and things like that. Um, that basically they learn the traffic, and it's just like a whole ton of servers that have to do these kind of things. But like I said, it's expensive. Almost anything in IT is, and when you have this kind of thing happen, it costs man hours and time in the data center, whatever, to mitigate it. And most data centers watch for this kind of stuff, and they will black hole your traffic if they see it happening.
I see. I
It all
see.
depends what kind of plan and who the data center is, and there's a
Right.
lot of how your contract's written, all those kinds of things.
Right, right, right. So, okay. So going back to the reasons for such attacks, like you were saying, most cases these are targeted events. Then,
Usually, either you piss somebody off, or they just don't like you. They got some kind of reason. Um, Most of the time.
hmm. Okay, so all of us that are like using these other shared services, like or shared hosts rather, like like and bigger names like domain.com and what have you. I'm just throwing them out there just as an example. But like, are these services, I guess, like you were saying, are less prone to such attacks then because they've installed the appropriate equipment?
Usually, because you're paying them to host the site. It's how they make their money. They're That's their bread and butter, is their bandwidth and how it gets used. And you can ask them beforehand if they have DDoS protection. More and more do, but it just depends if they spent the money on that.
I see, I see, I see. Um, so I'm gonna do some talking. I haven't been able to get a hold of Jeff Sisk over at Zeekly. I wanted to find out actually before the show started. I was going to try and find out what kind of a setup that they have. He had made reference to servers being worked on, so I don't know if they have them on site or if they go off site for them or not. But definitely, I'll bring that up with him and see if there's a way that we can't. You know, mitigate this because they are like one of the I guess you could say the people with the best intentions, and I guess maybe that might have pissed somebody off. But oh, yeah, you muted yourself again.
Well, sorry. So yeah, I was just listening to you. Yeah, so who knows? If Zeekly is truly private and they're not, complying with NSA orders or whatever to turn over their logs and their traffic and whatever, um, they might become a target of them. There were a couple of private email services, LavaBit and Silent Circle, that basically gave up the ghost just this last year when they refused with NSA orders to turn over their logs, and basically they were serving encrypted email, and they refused to turn it over, and they shut down instead of complying with the orders from the NSA.
Wow. So yeah, so you're either going to get it from the bad guys, or you're going to get it from the other bad guys.
Yeah, and who really knows unless you sit there and you figure out the traffic. You don't know. This stuff goes on all the time. Thousands of attacks a day, and it's not unusual. It's just one of those things that happens these days. Just the way the system is.
Hmm. Well, yeah, like I said, Saturday we're gonna discuss this in more detail. Hopefully, I can round up some more people. I'd like to get some professional hackers on board if they would be willing to speak about this and talk about how they go about doing it. You've been great there, James. I really appreciate you coming on. Guys, like I said, this is an emergency bulletin. I wanted to put this out just so that people were kind of aware of what these attacks are. James has been a very good guest here and giving some insight into this. There's going to be more. Stay tuned for that. Hey, by the way, anybody that that's supposed to be watching Jeff C's show right now, get back there and start watching it. This broadcast will be put on YouTube and you can watch it later. Anyway, I don't want to take away from his show. He's a great guy. And anyhow, listen. I'm going to call her quits for now. Like I said, this would be short and sweet. Um, James, I'd like to thank you for coming out.
Sure, I'm glad I could make it. I posted a link in the group chat that's a good essay on denial of service attacks and what you can do about them.
Okay, I'll make sure I put them into the show notes for later viewing for our listeners. And if you'd like to come back on Saturday for Saturday Night Show, we'd like to have you when we talk about this again, because I'm sure we can have other people that will have other questions that I haven't asked or thought of.
Sure, I think I can probably make it.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's it for this emergency broadcast. I'd like to thank my listeners, and I'd like to thank my guests, and everybody. Sleep well tonight. Tomorrow's a new day, and let's stand up for Zeekly. There's no reason that these guys should be getting hit unless people don't like free speech. So on that note, everyone, I say adios. And have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, James. Stay tuned for Saturday night's show. It'll be starting at 7 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, specifically. Anyway, guys, thank you again for listening.